Welcome. It is Friday. Time is flying. 26th of September already. We're here in DNA Studios with Dick Liberty. And how you doing today, Dick?
I'm doing good, Mr. Blowing. How are you doing today? Thanks for
All right.
having me.
Like your background.
Hey,
All right. So you and I have, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. Back when I was coming up, this is wild. I just think about this today. There was Danny Little Red Lopez and Carlos Palomino and Bobby Chacon, and then Sugar Leonard, had was coming on the scene after the Olympics, and then Tommy Hearns and Roberto Duran had been around for a bit,
right.
and there was even Rafael Benitez. I mean, they had all these names in the welterweight division. They are all converging, and then of course there was Marvin Hagler. So Marvin Hagler and Roberto Duran had been in the game for a while. They were like the crossover from the older era to the new era. Okay, and then
Right.
they all end up like fighting till one of them came out on top. Okay, but
Yes.
they every time you turn the TV on, there was either the USA amateur team fighting, on CBS, NBC, or ABC, or there was a pro fight going on, and you seen one of these guys in rotation, which is crazy today. I just got to thinking about it. I actually have met, went to training camp with Sugar Ray Leonard, met Thomas Hearns a couple times, met Roberto Duran when I was living in Panama. I met Carlos Palomino and Danny Little Red Lopez at the Boxing Hall of Fame banquet, in 1988. Right. Yeah. I got to meet I got Ernie Shaver's autograph. I met pretty much, a lot of my heroes from back then. Right.
What did that feel like? What did it feel like to meet those heroes when you were coming up and doing this in the boxing?
Well, it was Ernie Shavers was pretty humble guy. And Tommy Hearns was real humble. Man, Tommy Hearns, like, I told him he was my hero growing up, and he just loved me for telling him that, right? And then I went to Sugar Leonard's training camp twice, went to his house, had dinner with them. And he was nice enough. He had an ego. Oh my God. He had a huge ego, right? And then I seen him in San Diego. We got a picture together. And it took a bit for him to remember who I was. I don't know why. I was the only white guy there, right? And I could run.
Right.
I actually did I went to his training camp like right after I got my Trident. Actually, I was designated a Navy SEAL.
Nice.
And so we used to run. We used to run in Palmer Park 6 miles every 5 o'clock in the morning. They get us up. We got to go run in the park, right? And me and Roy Jones Jr. would beat everybody running.
I believe that. I could definitely see that.
And Roy could always run. Roy would, from 12 years old. I was 19. I couldn't outrun him at I'd never been able to outrun Roy. One time, somebody invited him to run a 10K race, and he won it in Converse All-Stars. and he told me that Danny Carbajal, remember him from the Olympics?
Yes.
And he ended up becoming world champion. Roy's like, hey, that kid should have been running in the Olympics, not just boxing, because I guess he could really fly too, right? And so I got all these fighters were coming up at that time, and they were converging to see that's happening now.
Yes,
Okay?
It is.
That's if I could be the Wizard of Oz, right? And put the right fighters together, and I'd orchestrate for the World Trident Boxing Association, junior welterweight belt. I'd have the winner of the Manny Pacquiao, Rolly Romero fight. And then there's and then you got, Thurman, Keith Thurman fighting, Fundora. Have you ever seen this guy Fundora fight?
And from what I've seen about Fedora and some of the comparisons, it's funny you bring up the Wizard of Oz because it's the same kind of stuff I have down in my notes here. The WTBA bracket, Wizard of Oz board, Fedora and Thurman. Whoever takes that belt just doesn't wear the gold, man. They become the magnet for Spence, for Ennis, for Charlo. That right there is a crown worth chasing. You know what I mean? Because you have such different styles of fighting right there. And I think what you're getting to on how to structure these brackets equals there's one equation, right? CC equals PTB. Country codes pay the bills, right? We're in a, from my perspective, boxing is it's knocked some of that dust off, like the welterweight Golden Knights you were talking about earlier. We're coming back into that transition. We've had the fire lit, since April. That was the Kendall that started the fire. Then we had the Crawford Canelo thing that brought that wild fanatical dream into place with the logo sponsorships and Netflix streaming and all this stuff. So now you create the bracket like you're about to discuss. Yeah, this boxing's putting on its golden robe with its golden trim and walking down Main Street like, hey, we're back. Let's get it.
Well, you got the crossover with Pacquiao still in the game, and then
Yep.
Floyd Mayweather's talking about, coming back and fighting Terrence Crawford. I mean, so there's that transition there. When what happens, Pacquiao fans, like the whole country of the Philippines, right? And
Yeah, you light that whole country on fire.
right, and then
Fire, right? And then you put it
now,
against the Cuban American flash. Oh man, come on.
and then you got, I mean, there's a real problem for Crawford because you know, he beat Canelo. Everybody knew who Canelo was. Everybody knew who Canelo was, and they're like, "Who's this guy Crawford?" Nobody knew who he was, right? So
Right.
his big challenge is, yeah, everybody's, a bunch of people are going to want to fight him. He's not going to have a problem finding a fight, but
No.
the problem is which one of these guys could he fight that's going to bring their fan base with them, because that's how they make the money. If they can't create the draw, there's no money, there's not enough money. I mean, he made,
Yeah.
I'm really crying for him. He made $50 million, fighting Canelo. Canelo only made 150 million, right?
Right.
Right. But who else can Crawford fight that can bring that kind of draw, right? So he's,
Well, like Crawford's next step, he Bud's smart, okay? He'll take a brand burnisher at 160 or a catchweight, maximize the leverage. Do you think he should aim straight for Canelo for a part two? Or should he endorse the rumors of Mayweather talk, fun for TV? Is that
well,
because he had a comparison made to him, like he was better than Mayweather that was suggested.
well, Canelo is aiming at fighting, God darn it, the boogeyman,
Man,
Benavidez.
Benavidez, the boogeyman.
Now, Benavidez is at light heavyweight.
Right.
Okay. And Benavidez said he'll come down to 168 to fight Canelo. He'll do that. And it sounds like that might be happening. And that'll be a big fight. Canelo still got his draw, and that's going to be good. I mean, Benavidez is the boogeyman.
Right.
Everybody he is, and he's not a one punch knockout artist. He's not, but he's heavy handed, and he throws a lot of hard punches fast. Right.
Right.
Right. He once he gets the advantage on you, life sucks because he's smashing you, right? Canelo, what messed Canelo, and I used to do this. I hit hard for a little guy,
Right.
and I would depend too much on that hard punch.
Gotcha.
And it would, a guy that, and I fought the same guy 3 times in the Alabama Golden Gloves. Okay. And the first time he stopped me, all right, he dropped me the first punch he hit me with. And the second time, I kept him in the same corner the whole fight, right? And the third time, he wouldn't let me catch him in the corner. He was moving around and fighting from the outside and throwing a lot of little punches in. But I'd have to catch him with a big. The video was crazy because you'd see me, he's throwing a bunch of punches, and then I'm like wham, and his head about flies off, right? Or I hit him in the body and like buckles over, right? But I didn't knock him out. I mean, Canelo was doing the same kind of thing,
Right.
trying to land that one big lick, right? And
Yeah.
and so when Sugar Ray Leonard fought Marvin Hagler, he knew that if he could make Marvin Hagler mad, he'd load up, and if he load up, he could outbox him, and that's exactly what he did. Okay, and Canelo knows how to fight the way he should have fought to beat Crawford, but he didn't. He didn't prepare for the kind of fight that he ended up fighting, right? He just, he thought his power was going to be enough. He thought he was going to be intimidating enough. A lot of fighters, Mike Tyson was that way. Mike Tyson beat guys way before they ever got into the ring because they were scared of him.
Yep.
Right. They were, Roy Jones Sr. used to say, both guys, each guy's thinking they're going to kick the other guy's ass. The first one that changes their mind loses. Right. And that's what happens. Right. And so, we got this dynamic of all these fighters. And the one that's most interesting to the matchup to me is Ryan Garcia in a rematch with Devin Haney.
Yeah, that's a very interesting match because Haney, he's bringing crafted composure, and Garcia, this dude's bringing Instagram chaos and algorithms when it comes to boxing. You know what I mean? It's not.
Well, that's the point. He's got a fan base.
Yes.
He's got a fan base, because he comes to fight, right?
Yeah.
He comes to fight. Just like Canelo, he wasn't prepared for Rolando Romero. Rolando Romero got prepared. What he did, which is what I like to do, I learned to do, is throw his punches in between your punches.
Right.
Stay in the pocket.
That rubber band trick you were telling me about the other day?
Oh yes, right. Well, I couldn't take a punch. I got 70 fights and I got dropped 7 times.
Wow.
So I knew I couldn't. I got up and won 3 times, but I knew I couldn't give this up. Right. I knew I couldn't.
Right.
Right. And so I saw that James Toney was coming in the picture, and James Toney would look a punch off. So I'm asking Roy Jones Sr. how, because I'm thinking if I can look a punch off, it ain't gonna hit me as hard, right?
Right.
Well, Roy Sr.'s like, okay, take a rubber band and stretch it between your index finger and your thumb, and then the other hand, push on it and try to bring your hand back faster than the rubber band. So I hold all day long. I'm like trying to do that, right? I go back to the gym and he's like, could you do it? I go, no. He goes, okay, the point of looking a punch off is not to take the heat off the punch the guy's throwing at you, but it's to keep you there instead of jumping way back and having to start all over again. Keep you there because you can punch forward faster than that other guy can move backwards.
Right.
All right. So doing that, I'd smash guys. I'd smash them hard doing that. Right. I mean, all these little tricks. I mean, once I learned how to knock somebody out, I had a few knockouts. I had like 5 knockouts, and I couldn't have told you how I did it. All of a sudden, I hit them and they fell down. I didn't know how I did it. Right. And I kind of put things of what I was trying to do, thinking back on it. I was trying to sneak a punch in. I was trying to get it in. So I'm thinking, okay, putting speed on the punch.
Right.
Would get me, will cause that knockout to happen. Okay. And so I told this to Roy Jones Sr., and then he said, okay, this is what happens is because you're right, he says, but what happens is your brain is held with fluid and these little spider webs like inside your skull. And if
Yes.
you hit somebody hard enough and fast enough where their head goes back to mechanical stop and their brain crashes in their skull
Yeah.
or it bounces around,
It's a double impact.
they'll fall down, right?
Yep.
And so when I started hitting people with that intent, they started falling down. Okay.
Hmm.
And so I could do it on purpose. Right.
Right.
And I'm like, oh wow, that's like magic, right? All right. So a lot of guys, a knockout artist is somebody who knows how to do it. Roy Jones Jr. became a knockout artist.
I think he
Okay.
was the master knockout artist, man. I remember his footwork, his handwork, his ankle cuts. Like that dude to me was a phenom, and he's kind of what inspired me. He contributed to my aspirations in the MMA world. Um, watching him growing up, watching the big name heavyweights, watching Ali, watching Tyson, watching Foreman and Mayweather, watching Holyfield, that whole gamut. That's what helped inspire me to get involved into the combat sport arena.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got to spar with him. Oh boy.
I know
I'm
you
the
got one up on me there, buddy.
I in the beginning, when he was 12 and I was 19, we were about the same height. Okay. But you know, he was fighting at 98 pounds. I was fighting at 125 pounds.
Mhm.
And he was trying to catch grease lightning, but I got good at it. I got good at cutting the ring off, anticipating where he was gonna go, right? And fighting in the pocket, like right in there. But the problem was is he kept getting bigger and hitting harder, and I didn't. But like when he fought James Toney, I'm pretty much the one that helped him strategize his plan to beat James Toney. Because
All right.
I told him if I fought James Toney, how I'd fight him, and I fought different than Roy. I had to be right inside, right, and I would have turned angles on him on the inside. All right,
Right.
so because I wouldn't want to stand right in front of him because he hit too hard, right?
Right.
So what Roy took what I said instead of turning angles on the inside, he was shooting in and out. Okay, so you ever play slap hands? And we used to do this all the time. Play slap hands, and
Yes, I've played that before.
you feint at somebody and they pull their hands back.
Yep.
Right, the best
Yep.
time to hit them is right when they're bringing their hands back.
Yep.
Right, so that's what Roy did all the time. Right, Roy would like either feint
He would
at
just
you.
follow the punch in.
He'd
Free and
feint
clear.
it. He'd feint at you, and you'd fall for the feint, and then when you went to reset, then he'd pound you.
Yeah.
Right, or he'd throw a combination, and you'd block, and then when you brought your hands back down, then he hit you again. Right, then he catch you with your off guard. He was a master at that. Roy did, right.
Right.
So so looking at like Keith, this guy Fundora ain't no joke.
No, he's not, man.
He
He's
could
definitely not.
he's not only he's 6'5" and got long arms and he's left-handed, right?
He's like
But
a he's like a Jenga tower with gloves that can counterpunch like a sniper. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, he thinks ahead, like six moves like a chess player, right? He
Yep.
thinks ahead.
Yep.
He knows how to make you run into his punches. Okay, but Keith Thurman ain't no joke either. Keith Thurman is very
Oh,
strategic in his foot, and Keith Thurman is a great promoter.
he's a great promoter, and he's a prime example of veteran grit, man. That dude has grit. He's got heart. And he's gonna stick to his game plan. And I think I don't know. I think this would be a very interesting fight. That's on
It's
October
going to be a
25th, right?
really interesting
For
fight.
WC for the 154 strap.
It's going to be real interesting because they're both strategic. Fendora's got them long arms, man, and he knows how to his hands know what they're doing, right?
Now,
That's going to be a good fight.
do you think Thurman is gonna like concede ground to counter angles and reach? to follow back on the inside? Or how do you think that's gonna play out with his experience and his style?
Well, if I was training him, if I was coaching him, I'd be wanting him to draw out Fendora's punches
Right,
get on the inside and stay on the inside as long as he can. You don't want to that wears you out trying to come in on a guy with reach on you.
right,
You want to once you're inside, you want to stay inside, but don't stay right in front of him. Turn those angles.
yes,
Roberto Duran was a master at that, turning the angles on the inside. Okay. And so, yeah, watch a lot of Duran tapes, right? A lot of Roberto Duran. You know, Pacquiao does the same thing. Pacquiao's good at that too. Pacquiao does shoot in and out a lot, but Pacquiao knows how to turn an angle on the inside.
yes,
Right.
he does.
Roy Jones Jr. did that. Roy Jones Jr. would turn that angle on the inside. He could fight it. He could shoot in and out, or he could turn the inside. So he knew how to do the inside angles. And like what we're talking
Yep,
about, like
right,
98% of the population has no clue that even that's a strategy, right? You know,
right.
and
It's okay, they wanna be entertained.
that's the biggest problem with the sport of boxing, because most people, even the officials, their eye doesn't really see what's happening. When they went to computer scoring for the amateur boxing, they would show that they had to have two judges score a punch within like 3 seconds, or the punch wouldn't count. And you see somebody getting his head almost taken off, and nobody counted that punch. Like, what's the
Well, I
pro?
know.
Yeah. So I mean, it takes a bit, and it took. I mean, I remember when I started being able to see whose punches were really landed, who was in control. I mean, it's not something. It's not something that's instinctive or natural to be able to pick up on that kind of stuff, because it's so fast.
Right.
MMA is easier to determine who's winning and who ain't. The guy who's on his
Oh,
back
much easier.
on the
Yeah,
ground, right?
yeah.
He ain't winning, right? He's not, so it's easier to tell that. Um, so all of these fighters, I mean, that at the top level, they are, they're, I like Ryan Garcia, right? And he knows how to set you up for the right hand or the left hook,
Right,
or a body shot. He could do those three things. He can get you out of there, right? But if you're somebody who's sophisticated, and Romero did it to him. Romero slipped his punch inside his punch and set him down. Okay, and he couldn't. He never really recovered after that. So
right.
there's a lot of things you got to work on. You got to do it, and you got to do it, and you got to do it until it's second nature. Okay,
Yep,
and the same thing with Canelo. Canelo didn't do that with Crawford. Crawford did it for Canelo. Crawford had his counters down pat against Canelo. Okay. Floyd Mayweather Jr. did it all the time. He did it all the time. I met him. He fought on the undercard with Roy Jones Jr. and Antonio Tarver, their first fight.
right.
And so there was like an after party, and I met him there, and that's when I told him, you know, he was fighting at lightweight, and I'm like, you could beat, oh God, who was that Nicaraguan guy that smoked? Um, he
Oh, I'm not sure. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
the he had just beaten Vernon Forrest, um, Mayorga,
Mayorga.
right? So I'm like, you could beat Mayorga. He's like, really? He's no taller than me. He's a little guy. Floyd is, right? He's little, but he's like, really? I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. You could handle him. You could beat him. He wouldn't touch you, right? And it was
Right,
like it
he
was
was
kind of
nicknamed like the Viper, right?
I don't
Vernon
remember what it
Forrest,
is.
nicknamed the Piper. He had his run from, was it
Vernon Forrest.
1992 to 2008?
Yeah, Vernon Forrest was that was really crazy. What we're talking about with Leonard Hagler, Hearns, and Duran.
Right.
That was kind of going on with Oscar De La Hoya and Shane Mosley and Vernon Forrest and Mayorga. They had a similar dynamic that, but it really wasn't, the rivalry wasn't pitched as much as it could have been. Mayweather and Forrest went way back in the Olympics or the amateurs, right? And then, but also Mosley and De La Hoya went back into the amateurs too with each other. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah. So there's, you know, uh, actually Floyd Mayweather had the same problem Roy Jones Jr. had, because there just wasn't that dynamic. There wasn't that much, the competition,
Right.
equal competition wasn't around. Okay. That's
Now,
coming.
do you think that was caused because there wasn't an actual like feed set up for some of the legacy style boxing and some of the like the outlaw title with Tank versus Jake Paul? It's being run a little different. The rounds are a little different. The rules are a little different. Do you think there isn't a direct connect feed for those kinds of brackets and legacy style fighting to complement the competition needed at this level?
Well, okay. It just, there was nobody at Floyd's level at that time
Right.
coming up, because he's got a work ethic like nobody else. He's still after it, right? He still gets
Right.
up, does his road work, does the training. He's still focusing on the technique. He don't take any time off. He
Right.
just, it's in him, right? And so that's what puts him at a level above, right?
Yes.
There's Pacquiao was the only one. Pacquiao was the only one, and Pacquiao came up from like flyweight, right? Pacquiao
Right.
Pacquiao came up from flyweight to welterweight, right? And this at middleweight, Floyd fighting Crawford at middleweight will be interesting. Okay.
Right.
It'll be very interesting. But that's a great fight for that was a great fight for Crawford, because he's
Yes.
bringing that audience, that fan base for Mayweather coming up,
Yes.
and the draw that he
Yes.
brings. And then Mayweather fighting um uh doggone it, the other brother of the Nickelodeon guy, the
Which one?
he's the one that's actually doing the promoting for um he beat Tyson. He
Oh, that
he's
Jake Paul guy?
Jake Paul's brother, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Floyd fighting Jake Paul's brother, Floyd harnessed that fan base.
Exactly. I'll give Floyd major props on his ability and his marketing and the way that he could sell himself and use that dynamic of intrigue, mystery, what's going to happen, and then just come into the ring and execute it. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
Hats off to the man.
so every time you do that, you pull, like, okay, so I didn't even know
Network
who
pruning.
I I didn't even know who uh um Ernie Shavers was, and then he fought Muhammad Ali, right?
Right.
And then I became a big fan of Ernie Shavers because if he had a good showing. And then when he fought Larry Holmes the first time, Larry Holmes, there
Larry
was
Holmes. Yes, I remember Larry Holmes. And
Larry
Jake
Holmes.
Paul's brother, Logan Paul.
Yeah, it was Logan. Uh Larry Holmes, beat him, but it was not an exciting fight at all, right?
Right.
But then uh when Larry Holmes fought Kenny Norton, and everybody knew who Norton was. Norton fought Ali 3 times. People think he beat him every time,
Right.
right? It broke his jaw one time. And that was a war. That was one of the greatest fights of all time. That fight was, right? And Larry Holmes, I'm like, oh man, he's not only has some boxing skill, but he's fierce. He's game, right?
Yeah.
And then Ernie Shavers knocked out Kenny Norton in 1 round. Then they had their rematch, and that was epic. Ernie Shavers dropped Larry Holmes twice, but
Right.
and then like he fell like a ton of cement,
Yeah.
and he got back up and whipped Ernie Shavers, and then he put him down again. You thought Shavers was done, and next thing you know, Larry Holmes on the ground,
Yeah.
right? So I became a big fan of, so what happens is when people see you fighting, this guy, uh, Barrios fighting
Uh-huh.
Manny Pacquiao,
Right.
right? You know, Barrios got beat by Keith Thurman, and
Interesting.
pretty obviously. I watched it. I watched the replay the other night, and it was, Keith Thurman got beat by Manny Pacquiao. But
Right.
everybody who's a Pacquiao fan knows who Keith Thurman is, right?
Right.
Right. So Fundora, is going to be, creating his legacy by fighting Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman brings that audience. It's also a Pacquiao audience. It's also, you know,
Yeah.
Barrios, you know, Canelo. Canelo. That's why Canelo got paid so much by Tariq Lashik, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why he paid him so much money. I mean, and it's almost like, I'm gonna make this money whether I win. It's a stupid amount of money, $100 million to fight, dude.
Right. Right.
Line up an army for me, I'll fight them, right?
Yeah,
For
that's
that
true.
amount of
But,
money, right?
when you think about it, though, Canelo turns the Mexican market into a pay-per-view jackpot.
Right,
Honestly,
right.
and I think that's the reason why it was done that way.
Oh yeah, yeah, right. It's all done that way, right? So
And
there was a guy that when you didn't make it last week, I reached out to Bad Brad Berkowitz,
okay,
and he used to do Fight News,
okay,
and we first connected on the chat thread for HBO.
nice.
Okay. And he, I reached out to him to see if he could replace you. And he didn't see my email until after we already done the show.
Right.
And he said he's done with boxing the way it is, the way they promoting it now.
Why? Why do you say that? Because I'm looking at his page right now, and if you haven't been to his page, you want to check him out, go to badbradberkowitz.com. There's a lot of interesting stuff on here. Why is he done with boxing?
He just thinks that the way that they're promoting with the alphabet soup of sanctioning bodies,
Right.
I mean, it already happened. The WBO stripped Terrence Crawford.
They stripped Crawford. That was a week after the fight.
Right.
Why?
Right. Well, how do you think they make money?
Oh, yeah, that's true. I get it.
Yeah,
But
if a fighter's not fighting,
yeah,
the sanctioning body don't make any money.
Yeah.
right? They only get a chance. They make between 3 and 6% of the champions belt,
Uh-huh.
and 2 and 4% of the challengers belt every time there's a title fight.
Man, that's like ad gladium style right there. That's just ridiculous to me. I think they should be compensated for one, the ability, two, the dedication, three, for showing up and taking it real. Do you think that's impacting how fighters are engaging in the sport right now? And if so, which way is it impacting it? What's the biggest concern amongst the actual talent, the real fighters, when it comes to all the alphabet sanctions and sanctioning bodies?
Well, the belt's not that important. It's the fan base following the guy that you're fighting.
Right.
You know, that I mean, they promoted this one like never, like nothing's ever been promoted before, the Canelo Crawford fight. Okay. Everybody on the undercard of that fight, oh man, they got a gift. Because
Yeah.
now they got, that's how I learned about Danny Little Red Lopez. He fought an undercard with, Muhammad Ali and Leon Spinks.
Right.
That's how I even knew who he was, right?
Right.
Okay. Um, and then this, then so that's a great, imagine if you could harness Muhammad Ali fan base, right? Just fighting on the
Right.
undercard, right? You want to do,
Yep.
you want to put out a good, you want to do good. You want to put on a good show. Okay. So what we're talking about here on this show, okay, is what we're going to do. And I have a call today talking to somebody that's going to bring us the sponsors for the fan base outcome for the sport of boxing.
I love it.
Okay.
Fan-based outcomes.
So the sanctioning body can make up all kinds of rules. Like there's it depends on who the sanctioning body is, but if it's a draw, they can say that you're going to go another round, or you can go another 3 rounds. Okay. Yeah. That happened
Yeah.
that happened in
Wait.
Texas.
Please tell me you're talking about the old Southern Death things that they did in some of the legacy leagues.
Oh,
So there is no draw.
They did it here. They did it here in Cyprus.
Wow, okay.
This is crazy. Who's the guy that knocked out Pacquiao?
Yeah, let me find. Let's see.
Keep talking though.
The guy, so his son is a pro now, right? And
Right.
he fights a lot on the Red Owl boxing card. Okay. And it'll come to me here in a second.
It wasn't Barros, was it?
No.
Barros.
And he fought and they called it a draw.
They called it a draw.
Right. Juan Miguel Marquez, his son. Okay. And so they had him go another round, right? They had him go another round. And in the end, oh, this is crazy.
It was Marquez.
Yeah, Marquez's son.
Yeah.
Was fighting, and they fought another round, and then the judges said that the other guy won. And then like after like the last fight of the night, they made an announcement that they retabulated the scoring, and Marquez, it was so blatantly corrupt. It was stupid.
Right.
It was just crazy, right? So the point I'm making though, as a sanctioning body, they can make the rules that the referee's vote counts, and that's been done. Okay, so you got the three commission officials, the referee, and then the audience. We can determine the audience combined vote is the tiebreaker.
The audience, yes, the audience could buy both a tiebreaker.
Or, I mean, you could even up the ante on the fan base outcome because, I mean, when you think about it, that's definitely going to be a massive following generator. That's going to,
Well, that's
because
the point. That's
you're
the whole
including the fans,
point.
right? So you can add
Right.
the options. You can say with the fighters, okay, you can fight. We do these belts and these tournaments, but one condition: if the fans vote that you go to an extra round or an extra 3 rounds for that sudden death because we want a
Well,
winner, not a draw.
we wouldn't,
Holy mackerel! Do you know what that would create?
yeah, you're throwing a whole different dynamic in there, but just having the fan base
Yes.
fighting for
Yes.
this title, the World Trident Boxing Association title,
Yes.
brings the fan base.
Yes, it does.
Okay,
Yes,
that
it
doesn't
does.
happen. That doesn't happen with the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, the WBO. None of that don't. They don't. Nobody cares about that belt. That belt. That belt
Right.
doesn't bring the crowd.
And you know what's beautiful about this? When the fan base decides the draw, you don't have the half the crowd walking out and half the crowd going boo.
Yeah,
You know, that's just beautiful.
they're on their phones and they're making their voices heard, right?
Yes, they are.
Right. They're part of the show. They become part of the show.
Yes, they
So
are.
so that's what we're bringing. And so we got some calls today that are going to be, moving that further down the road. We're talking with other promoter that's got a similar vision of creating like a tournament that's been done before. It was done with the Contender Series. It was done with the Next Great Champ. That was Golden Boy that did that. And this guy was involved with Golden Boy. And
Okay.
then Cedric Kushner. Do you remember Cedric Kushner?
No, I do not. I do not at the moment. I don't know
He
why
was he was
it's a
a
blank on me.
he was from South Africa. He primarily promoted Led Zeppelin. All right,
Okay.
in concerts,
Okay.
right? He was huge. He was rotund, and he had this Fu Manchu mustache. They called him the Walrus, right?
Ah,
But he did this called Thunderbox, and it was late at night, and it was a heavyweight tournament, right? So the tournament's been done, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
Right.
Ideally it should have happened. It should happen with the amateur boxing. Used to
right.
be every weekend you'd see the USA amateur team fighting on USA Wide World of Sports or NBC. They'd be showing the USA team fighting against other countries, and you'd be
Right.
watching and so you're watching these certain fighters. You see regular who would be who's going to be the representative for the United States in the Olympics, right?
Right.
And that was like really happening. And then 1980, the boycott happened, and you don't hardly see any boxing anymore, amateur boxing, since the 80 Olympic boycott. Okay, and
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
and so if that would be the ideal feeder for the pro ranks, is getting the amateur boxing out there so people could see it, and because people they want to see who's coming up. They want to see who's coming up. So what this other promoter's doing, going at the lower level, the club level tournament is a good idea. You just got to make sure you got enough viewership, you got enough eyeballs, right?
Well, and this fan base outcome is definitely perfect for fighters like Jake Paul. For your
Oh yeah,
Instagram chaos
yeah.
fighters,
You're
right?
talking
Because
about this whole thing,
yeah,
fighting Javante Davis,
yeah,
right? And people don't. Javante's a little guy. Javante's like 5'2", right?
yeah.
But he's been known to knock heavyweights out, sparring, right? And the same
Right.
thing, once he gets inside, see, being a little guy, when Arthur Williams, he was a heavyweight, junior Olympic champion, got a berth in the 84 Olympics. And the only one he had to spar with was me and Roy Jones Sr., who was like 32 years old at the time, right? And I could see I could see everything. I was too fast for him. And then
Right.
once I got inside on him, I was safe because
Right,
his
right.
arms were too long to touch me.
Yep.
And so Gervonta Davis, once he gets inside, and if he's turning angles on the inside and staying on the inside, he will own Jake Paul.
You want to hear my prediction for that particular fight?
Sure, sure.
All right, so the way I see it, I say Tank takes the win if he can stick to the timing and the accuracy. You know, Jay's size forces clinches and slows the pace, but it ain't gonna fool anybody watching. And just like you said, on the inside, Tank's got the control. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
once
it's
he's on
not
the
gonna
inside,
be something that hits the box reg, but the internet's gonna be on riot. There's gonna be side bet content. It's gonna trend harder than the damn punch stats, to be honest with you.
once he's on the inside, Paul ain't gonna be able to do anything to
Not
me.
a damn thing.
Yeah,
No.
that's the advantage of being a little. And you know what? You can hit harder punching up than you can punching down.
Yes, you can.
'Cause
Yes, you can, especially at that distance and that proximity.
Yeah, you're pushing against the ground,
Sure.
man. Yeah, yeah.
You got the hip transfer from the feet.
Mhm.
Oh man, and that up momentum. My other predictions there. All right, this is predictions for Fedora and Thurman on the 25th or October 25th, right? I'm gonna take Fedora on this one. He's disciplined since Taizu, and over 12 rounds, the height and the volume will smother Thurman. I think a late TKO or a wide unanimous decision. Thurman's counters are sharp, but it might not be enough to buy the rounds in the judges' eyes. On the Pacquiao versus Romano, if signed in late 2025, if it happens, I see Pacquiao by unanimous decision. Romero's awkward burst and the physicality make it tricky, but Manio's tempo and back half stamina tilt the end of the close rounds towards later in the fight. But there is one caveat to that fight. If Father Time shows up early, Rolly could steal it. He could definitely steal it. Haney versus Garcia, the proposed Haney by decision. Judges love his control. Twitter hates his style. Instagram loves Garcia's highlights. And the 1.6 million fans still watch every second. I would expect a rematch, not because justice demanded, but the money does in that situation. We talked about Tank and Paul. You got to be honest, man. You got to stack your markets, not split them up.
Yeah, we'll offer
You
the
got to stack
outlaw
the
belt.
markets.
We'll offer them the outlaw belt if they want to. If they want it, right? And you know, like I said, what's going to happen is the World Trident Boxing Association belt is going to bring the audience.
Yes.
It's gonna because no other belt will be able to do that. No other title. Nobody cares. When Roy Jones was world champion, the unified light heavyweight champion, he represented 13 titles. And he would
pretty significant.
He would only he'd only pick the fighters that had the fan base coming with them, right? And he would only represent the belt that had the guy that was going to be the most interest to fight. They had a fan base, basically, right? Gonzalez, when he fought Gonzalez, I was at that fight in LA. You know, Mexicans love boxing.
Yes,
they do. That's why Canelo's got a huge fan base. But Canelo has a bunch of Mexicans that don't like him. They never they stopped liking him since he got beat by Mayweather.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I had this is the last story. Then we got to cut it. I got my first colonoscopy in Harlingen, Texas. and the nurses found out that I was a boxer and, boxing fan, right? And so the doctor was too. And
Right.
the doctor goes, the doctor says, um, so do you like Canelo? I'm like, oh, he's a good boxer, So I wake up, they put you in twilight safe. I wake up and they're working on me, right? And the doctor
Right.
sees that I woke up. He goes, I'm gonna tattoo Canelo Alvarez's name on your ass. Right. He didn't
Oh,
like
okay.
Canelo. The doctor didn't like Canelo, right? The
Wow.
huge boxing fan, Mexican boxing fan, didn't like Canelo. There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
Okay. De La Hoya's fan base was young Latina girls
Uh-huh.
and gay guys.
Interesting.
That's who followed Oscar De La Hoya, right? So everybody's got a different fan base, right? You don't know, right? So anyway, the in this conversation, the World Trident Boxing Association with the fan base outcome, we're the only strap that's going to be bringing the audience.
You know what? That's amazing. And here's the bottom line, fight fans. We got to crown the kings where the hills are the highest. Legacy names on real belts. Legacy name on the real belt. The Trident Boxing Association belt. Leave the spectacles in their own sandbox, man. The bracket system rewards the winners with market access. That's how you make boxing both chaos and cathedral at the same time. Wild enough to thrill, organized enough to print the money, right? I want to give a big shout out to Combat Sports Entertainment for having me. A big shout out to you, and Red's Corner for having me on. Until next round, I'm Big Liberty telling you straight, the fight game's never been hotter, never been louder, never been more fun. Buckle up, buttercups, because we're just getting started.
Hey, good having you, and we'll see what goes on.
Thanks, sir.